Marilyn today. We don't have, thank you, Marilyn. We don't actually have a lot to talk about, but that's actually not true because on the 9th, we have two big events going on at the library. One is from the Historical Society from 1 to 3, and it's called Inspiring Veterans Day. And then immediately after that, from 4 to 5, we have Robert Watson, who's one of our most favorite people in person, not you, Shelly, you're on Zoom, but in person, talking about founding our nation. And you guys know Robert is always packs the audience, and it's a very exciting presentation. Don't forget that on Veterans Day, the 11th, the library will be closed. The 18th, Linda Levin, if you guys were there on Sunday, it's the first time a lot of us saw Shelly. And the first thing I said to Larry was, my gosh, she's taller in person. And Shelly said, well, yeah, but so are you, Jackie. So, I mean, what can you say? Anyway, Linda Levin was there too. And she will be on the 18th doing the book discussion about the many lives of Mama Love. On the 20th, Shelly will be back and he'll talk about that. And on the 23rd, we have kind of an exciting thing. The Broward Jazz Combo Band will be there at the library from 1 to 2. So you guys, if you're not getting your newsletter, make sure that you drop a note in the chat to Marilyn, because she is our membership guru and she will take care of that. And hopefully we go from there and we all have a really good time. So it was a wonderful day on Sunday. I hope all of you guys were there because it was a lot of fun to have that day of learning and have all of our presenters there in person. So anyway, Shelly, I think that's it for me. So you go ahead and take it away and tell us about this movie.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. And yes, I just want to reiterate, it was a terrific Sunday, and I was glad to be there. And I hope we picked up some new people that are here tonight. I can't tell yet. I don't see everybody's face. But also tonight, by the way, I'm live from New York. So I'm up here for a few days. Anyway, Tangerines, or as it's known in the Republic of Georgia, mandarinid. Mandarinid. It's there's a Yiddish expression. Can you all hear me? Something just blacked out on me. Okay. There's a Yiddish word called mindarinen, and it sounds the same, but it means caught up in the middle of everything. And that's an apropos term for this too, by the way. Anyway, I thank you for coming this evening. The film Tangerines is from 2013. It was directed by a terrific director, which I'll talk about again later. His name is Zaza Urashadze. Zaza Urashadze. It was the first ever Estonian Georgian co-production and went on to become one of the most successful and worldwide acclaimed films in Georgian film history, winning a number of international awards, and was an Academy Award nominee for Best International Film. It was the director's second film, only his second film, and his first as well, which was entitled Here Comes the Dawn, had also been submitted for the Academy Award. Okay, so knowing that, it's 1992. As the Soviet Union collapsed, we've seen the Abkhazians who live in the western part of Georgia declare their independence, and a civil war began, with Russia siding with the Abkhazians and even encouraging mercenaries to fight against the Georgians. Just to clear all of this up, in the middle of all the fighting lies this remote village where the Estonians lived for over 100 years. Most have returned to Estonia now. With sudden artillery shelling and roving mercenaries, there is no wonder why everyone left, except maybe for Ivo, a gentle carpenter who has decided to stay to help the other remaining figure, his friend Margus, who wants to harvest one last crop of tangerines. Ivo is played by he was a brilliant Estonian actor. His name was Lembit Ovsak. He is a figure of quiet strength and dignity in this. He was known as believe it or not, the Estonian Laurence Olivier. He was a stage actor as well as a film and TV actor. Anyway, with his white beard and his quiet, determined demeanor and strong moral compass, he resembles a biblical patriarch. When we first see him building crates for carrying tangerines, which contrasts later with what he builds to carry something else. And we meet Marcus, Ivo's neighbor, a farmer yearning to complete the harvest so he can finally join his family in Estonia. After that sudden firefight at the beginning, Ivo and Margus find two wounded soldiers left for dead. One Ahmed, a Chechen mercenary, fighting for the Abkhazians he previously met. The other, Nika, a Georgian soldier who he almost buried. He brings them in, nurses them back to health, and finds himself the reluctant keeper of peace. The two men are bitter enemies. I am just hold on for 1 second. I'm having trouble with this speaker system.
Okay. Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. Let's work with that. Anyway, while Ivo gets his promise from both to not carry out any retaliation under his roof, even if they both promise to kill one another once they get the strength, his house now serves as the contained battlefield of nerves, where a shared roof and a shared humanity become the two soldiers' journey. The heart of the film lies in the delicate, slow burn relationship between Ahmed and Nika, two enemies trapped under one roof. Initially, their animosity is palpable, and a tense silence fills the room. Ivo, acting as a moral arbiter, forces them to set aside their weapons and respect his home. The initial shared meal is a pivotal scene, a moment of profound awkwardness and unspoken tension. We see them in their separate with their separate plates and their separate positions, barely looking at each other. This simple act of eating together is the first step toward a forced, fragile peace. Over time, this fragile peace begins to chip away at their hardened exteriors. We see them exchange insults, but then in a subtle shift, they start to talk. Ahmed reveals he is not fighting for the Abkhazian cause, but for Chechen independence, his own, a fight he sees as similar to Nika's. Nika, in turn, explains his motivations. This conversation moves them from being two-dimensional enemies to complex men with families, dreams, and fears. Ivo gets a promise from both to not carry out the retaliation. Okay, we see a particularly powerful scene when the two men bond over a simple act of shared experience, a shared cigarette, or a conversation about their love of music. These small humanizing moments break down the walls of prejudice and reveal the common ground they share as young men caught in a conflict they didn't choose by the end. They have not become friends, but they have reached a deeper understanding, a mutual respect, forged not by ideology, but by shared suffering and the gentle guidance of Ivo. We can imagine in different circumstances they may have met as fellow travelers in a world of peace. And when a shelling hits the village and Marcus's home is destroyed, Ahmed's offering his cash to Marcus is refused because he feels he cannot take money earned like a mercenary. And then the fragile peace that Ivo so carefully cultivated is shadowed by the arrival of the Russians. A key scene again where the tragic, sobering reminder of larger forces at play are beyond Ivo's control. Nika is brutally shot and killed, and in that moment, the human connection he had just forged with Ahmed is violently severed. His death is all the more heartbreaking because we, the audience, have come to see him not as a faceless soldier, but as an individual from a family and a story. The final agonizing words that Ahmed utters, excuse me, as he rushes to Nika's side, underscore their newfound bond. We said we wouldn't shoot each other under the roof. The final moments of the film focus on the solemn burial, after which the image of what Ivo was building at the beginning to carry fruit to the world is now a coffin for Nika. Ivo and Ahmed, once enemies, now stand as two figures in mourning, united in their grief. The act of digging the graves together is a profound and moving symbol of reconciliation, and the land of Tangerines instead becomes the final resting place for his neighbor and a young soldier. The ending is even more powerful. An image of how war consumes not only lives, but also the very purpose and rhythm of life itself and nature. The film ends on that quiet sorrow, that note of quiet sorrow and an understated sense of dignity, leaving us with the enduring image of the two men alone but together in a world irrevocably changed by war, especially when Ivo has also revealed that Nika's body lies next to that of his own son, who was killed when the war broke out in August of 92. Ivo tells Ahmed if he had died instead of Nika, Ivo would have buried Ahmed next to his son as well. Ahmed tells Ivo that he misses his own family and begins his drive home to Chechnya. That will be plunged into a similar bloody war less than 2 years later. He listens to the cassette Nika kept rewinding, putting back together of the Georgian music that belonged to him. The composition is roughly contemporaneous with the events described in the film and touches on the theme of longing and reuniting after a period of separation. In an interview with Tomasz Pichel, who is a major critic in Europe, director Zaza Urashadze clarified his intentions for the film. He stated that my film, above all, is a story about people who find themselves in a situation that is beyond their control and are forced to renounce their human nature. He stresses that his aim was to avoid politics and instead show the value of humanity, a value that is frequently overlooked in a conflict. Urashadze notes that Ivo is not a typical Estonian. He has deep roots in Abkhazia, having been born there to a family that lived there for over 100 years. This explains his decision to stay and his role as an alien to both sides of the conflict. Ivo's actions are a reflection of his enduring common sense, values, and morality in a world that has gone absurdly crazy. The director also explained that the scene with the Russian soldiers wasn't meant to be a political statement. He says the scene mainly reveals the insanity of war and its brutal irregularity. The drunken officer could belong to any side of a conflict. The film's setting in 1992 might seem like a distant past, but the issues it explores remain highly relevant today. Since the 2008 Russo-Georgian War, Georgia and Russia have had no formal diplomatic relations. While the film is meant to be an anti-war and not political statement, its themes resonate with the ongoing situation. Today, Russia and a handful of other countries recognize Abkhazia and South Ossetia as independent states, while the vast majority of the international community, including Georgia, continues to regard them as Russian-occupied territories. An ongoing and deeply personal manifestation of the frozen conflict is the borderization process. The Russian military personnel are actively building fences, still to this day, barbed wire and other physical barriers to demarcate the administrative boundary lines. This has devastating effects on local communities as it separates families, cuts off access to farmlands, and disrupts daily life. The film's message about the brutal irregularity and insanity of war is, unfortunately, still a part of reality for many people in this region. The film is a somber parable about the destructive effects of war, but it is also a powerful statement on what a shared humanity might be able to do to overcome them. We see that delicate balance between quiet tension and sudden outbursts in the film. You can feel the rage building between Ahmed and Nika. A moment of shared humanity can quickly give way to terror and sorrow. Through it all, we see everything through Ivo's eyes. He believes that these men can reach an understanding, and in doing so, he offers a glimmer of hope that entire nations might do the same. The film emphasizes that survival is a gritty business. This is from the director, that takes endurance and willingness to find goodness in a world gone mad. Ivo clings to his moral code. He makes Ahmed and Nika promise not to kill each other. There are people worth their word, he insisted. The film also touches on themes of loss and belonging, naturally. The crates of tangerines ready for export symbolize the populations that are displaced by nationalism. They also represent the boxes of prejudice that soldiers create to justify hating and shooting their enemy. Ultimately, the director rewards our patience with a rich and passionate film. It shows how a single isolated man can, for a brief time, work a small miracle through courage, compassion, and principle. The gorgeous landscapes of Guria serve as a poignant reminder of the pointlessness of human bloodshed in the larger context of nature's bounty. Sadly, the director Urshadze died in 2019 after a heart attack at the age of 54 and having completed two more highly acclaimed films. It is a sad loss for cinema. As a final thought, it's worth considering the irony of the region. At its uppermost tip, Abkhazia is only about 5 miles from Sochi. And if you remember, Sochi was the site of the 2014 Winter Olympics, yet its borders remain tightly closed, highlighting the lingering tensions of a conflict that the world has largely forgotten, replaced by a larger conflict, the Ukraine war, that has yet to be resolved. That has yet to be resolved. And I leave you with that to enter a discussion and a conversation. This already.
Shelley, all of a sudden, we can't hear you anymore.
I can hear him, I think. Oops.
No, I think you muted yourself. We didn't mute you.
Okay. How's that?
You're back.
No? Yes?
I
Okay.
didn't do it this
All
time.
right, Karen. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I really like this movie. And I know it talks about the green and stuff like that. You know how green everything was, but all I saw was the starkness of the landscape. You know, around where the fighting was. The only bright spots were the trees with the tangerines, and I thought it does show the futility of war, but also I guess you know when somebody takes your greedily takes your property, you want to get it back. I mean, that's how I'm assuming that the Abkhazi people would think that they wanted to be have their own nation, not to be governed by the Georgians. But anyway, that was my thought on that. I thought it was very well done. The actors were very believable. I was like really into the movie, like I was there. So, but anyhow, that's what I had to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Abkhazians were really, they had settled in that part of Georgia, and they felt, it wasn't their country, but they had come in and become part of it, and yet they weren't treated as such. That was the problem. That was the main problem. It is always when a group moves in, and another group wishes to force them out. I mean, this is
Right.
what we see. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Susan Pauls.
Hello.
Hi.
Loved the film, just thought it was extraordinary. What struck me most about it was the fact that there were no women, of course.
Yeah.
And that raised a whole bunch of thoughts in my mind. In that it's fairly common cliche in movies of this sort that the women take in the wounded and care for the wounded and have to learn the men's chores, the men's ability to chop wood and farm and all of this stuff to care for the wounded and so on. In this case, I'm watching the men. Now they had to get the bread from somebody in the village, but they do all of the quote feminine caretaking, how to take care of a sick person, how to clean up after them, what kind of food to cook. The water didn't come into that hand washing station by itself. The wood had to be chopped. Those trees had to be chopped down. But also the softness, the clean towels, the clean linens, that what we consider male roles and female roles were just totally destroyed in this. And because both sexes or both genders have the ability for kindness, compassion, strength, anger, all of the things. And I just love that about it.
That's terrific. Yeah, I mean, women weren't, there's no women in the film, but there is a presence of women. If you remember, especially the first time Ahmed comes in, he know that his partner notices the picture.
Right.
And he says, you know, Ivo's a little upset at that. But when Nika looks at the picture, they have a conversation about it. And he mentions that it's his granddaughter and talks about her lovingly. And, you know, he tells him he wants to be an actor. And Ivo says to him, one day, maybe we'll come and watch you in a play. You know, it's a sense that, you know, Evo likes Nika, and he grows also closer to Ahmed. So there is this quality, just as you're saying, there is this quality of the feminine, even in the men, even in the men. Yes, yes, that's terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Aulette.
What I found during war time, food is not that plentiful. And he had so many eggs. Where did all the eggs come from? Where did all the food come from? Where did the meat come from? Because we know during war, you know, things really dwindle in that when it comes to mealtime and the availability of getting things. I found that a little strange that it was so plentiful.
Well, let me, you know, we got to remember all the Estonians left, and Margus was left with, you know, they were left with what they left there. And also, this was a bountiful land, obviously, not only for tangerines,
Well, yes.
but, you know, they might have left Marcus with his chickens and, you know, with chickens, and there were things that they had. I didn't see this overly bountiful. I mean, there was food.
Oh my God, if I
Certainly.
needed eggs, I knew where to go, to his house. There were so many eggs.
Yes, there were a lot of eggs,
But I did love the
but
psychology.
not a lot of people.
Yeah. But I did absolutely adore this movie because it reminded me of No Man's Land.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's, you know, you're right, and now that you mention it, yes. I mean, it's something I may do in the future, but if you have a chance, I think it's available on Amazon and other streaming services. It's called No Man's Land. The director is Danis Tanovic, and it won an Academy Award. And there's another film equally as good, like No Man's Land, which is Finnish and deals with World War II, with a Nazi soldier and a Finnish soldier caught in a Sami, a woman's, and that's, Susan, that's for you. It's caught in a Sami woman takes them in and cares for them.
And what's the name of that one?
That's a good question that I have to think about for a few minutes, because
Okay.
I haven't done it in a long, long time, but I will get it for you.
Okay. But I love the psychology when you have two opposing soldiers and how it slowly broke down.
Yes.
Down to what? Humanity that we all have. Nobody
Yep.
asks for war, and everybody's affected by war differently. It was a
Yes.
wonderful film, and thank you for bringing it to us.
A pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Jackie.
We really liked it. Personally, I thought it was totally predictable, to be honest, but I also thought it was done in such a good way that you didn't, even though you really did know what was going to end up happening, it was so well done that you were swept away with it. But when you mentioned earlier that Ivo and Ahmed, when they were burying Nico next to the sun, and he said, "I would bury you here too," I did love when he turned around and he said, "but a few feet away." I thought
Yeah.
that said an awful lot. Every now and then there were little snippets of things that were just so much of the humanity that you can't lose everything. And I think that's a really important statement, is no matter how bad things get, we have to retain a bit of ourselves. And I thought that line in itself really said it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, also he had a wry sense of humor, which he used in other places in the film. And it's true. It's true. and very, very much so. There were, yes, you could feel, I don't know if you thought that Nico was going to die. You probably may have thought both of them might die, or Ahmed be the one that would die. Yes, it's predictable to that extent that there's going to be, somebody's going to die here, and hopefully it's not going to be Evo. I mean, is the case, but I thought that was a great twist at the end when he admits to both of them, because that's where his insight to war comes in, is what happened to his son. I mean, it just, that probably tore him apart. And now he is bitter about war. He's bitter, he sees these two men who probably are his son's age, and he's got them under the roof. We have to think back now, who is this? Why is this character behaving the way he is? And the ending says it. I lost a son. I really don't want to lose two more, in essence, that he has in his own home. It's a poetic gesture, a beautiful gesture.
When you say that too, about how at the end when Nico gets killed, I thought that was actually a very prophetic kind of thing, because Ahmed thought they were all dead. And Nico trusted him. At that point, he trusted him so much that he didn't check himself. And it ended up he got killed. And then you saw Ahmed's reaction. I thought that was actually very good too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the whole film is so well acted. I mean, the actors were terrific. They really performed very well. And as I said, the director was wonderful, obviously. It's both his films that were nominated really dealt with these situations, and he was very keyed into it, and his country. Terrific. Thank you, Jackie. Rachel.
Well, I loved the movie, and my favorite scene was when the two soldiers are sitting at the table for the first time. I felt the intensity of that scene, because he gave his word, and I'm going, oh my God, is he really going to comply? And once he gave his word that he would actually not kill this guy. And it was just like peeling an onion, how their relationship evolved to the point at the end when he says, throw me the gun, throw me a gun. And he does.
Yes.
Now, yes. After all this, when they were such enemies, now they're working together. And what I found in retrospect, and when I watched the movie, is about war. And the war, these people are all soldiers, but they are all human beings. They have a life, they have interest, they have family, they have all these things. And it fleshes out a soldier. Here he was a mercenary, okay? And he was really upset because his friend was killed. And then at the end, they become friends in a way. The two opposing soldiers become friends. It is the capability of knowing each other that makes a difference, I think. And it reminded me of that one, the true story of that Christmas time during World War I.
I was going to bring that up. Absolutely.
And
you're absolutely right.
For that one day, they just suspended being enemies and played together. And the next day they killed each other.
Why? Because their commanding officers said, you will go back into the trenches and you will fight the war. And they also expurgated any letters that came out from there and anything coming to the world that this could happen, that men can get together and say, we don't want to fight. We don't want to fight. And unfortunately, that's not the outcome. That's not the outcome. And I think, as Jackie said, it's predictable because we know what war does. We know what war does. So it becomes predictable in our own minds. It's a sad statement. I mean, we wonder, That's why I said reflect on the fact that the war in Ukraine, that Russia, is committing to the Ukrainians, and you think about that, they're the same people. They're the same people, and they're killing each other. They're killing each other. I couldn't say any more about that. I mean, it's we could say a lot. I mean, we just don't understand it. We just don't understand it. It's just, a man who's all powerful, believes he's so all powerful, and won't relent. And won't relent. He believes he's going to put the Soviet Union back together again. He really does. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Karen?
Okay, just a quick one. The another funny scene, I guess you could call it, was when they pushed the bus over the embankment after
Yeah.
so they wouldn't attract attention. And the doctor says, he says, "Oh, I thought it would explode."
Yeah, only in the movies.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Only in the movies. Yes, it was a what we call a cinematic comment.
Right.
That's the director's sense of humor in a sense. I don't give you that because it's only in the movies, but this is the movie. It's terrific. It's terrific. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Come on. Some of you have some things to say. Like Sandra, you usually have something to say. Lefkowitz.
Shelly, Ed said, I believe that the soldiers were able to defend everyone in the house because of living under one roof. This corresponds to the way we trust and like people in our immediate community, although we may say we don't like or trust others as seen as foreigners.
Interesting. Well, did they form a community? That's the question, because sometimes two people form a community. And in this case, that's what they were able to do. It's interesting. There's a scene we didn't talk about, which is when the soldiers, was it the Russians, so the Russia, no, it was the Abkhazian, I believe it was the Georgians, when they come into the house. No, it was the Russians because he can't talk. Remember, they said to him, "Be quiet. Don't say a word." We'll say he got wounded and couldn't speak. And how, there's cooperation. There's cooperation because Ahmed could have said anything at any moment and didn't. So, but let me get back to Sandra. She was about to talk. Go ahead, Sandra.
Sandra, you need to unmute.
Okay,
There
I
she
did
goes.
unmute. I found, I guess it was Susan who started with talking about no women in the film.
Right.
That was an interesting thing, I thought, and it made it easier. The women's present was that there was a picture, so you knew that there were women in the world. But I think that the focus was not to be on, in many of these war movies, there's a certain sexuality that's very implied, and this was devoid of that. The most poignant thing for me personally was the blowing up of the farm, of the Tangerine farm. I found that it belies what I think is behind a lot of war, which is a land grab, and which is powerful people telling less powerful people what to do so that they can capture land. And the powerful people are not in tune with where that land is coming from and what it's coming from. And I just, that's where I found the movie most poignant. That whole the building up around a farm and its meaning in life, a farm growing things, and then it was for nothing.
Well, it's interesting you make that comment. It's not just that; it's the fact that if you're fighting a war to defeat these people to take the land, but you're destroying the land you want to take. I mean,
Yes.
there's an absurdity to this. There is an absurdity to this. Again, we go on with these absurdities and this inhumanity, because people don't think. They don't think. And the soldiers can't think. They're not allowed to think. They're only allowed to kill the enemy. And that's it. So these two men began to think. They began to think of each other. They began to think of their families, and Evo brought that out in them. Because soldiers aren't thinking machines, they're fighting machines. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Thank you, Sandra. Marilyn.
So, you know what, when I think about this film and I'm thinking like, what is the theme? What is this all about? And to me, and I don't know, reality check, I thought it was a very clever, subtle anti-war statement that really all he was talking about in his head was the futility of the war. I don't really know that we even understood what the main cause was. We had I don't know, the section of Georgia where the
Abkhazia.
right, okay, can't pronounce that. They and the Chechens and the mercenaries didn't have a clue as to what they were really even fighting for, except maybe the ones who really lived there, who were of that section. What do you how to pronounce it?
Abkhazia.
Abkhazia, whatever. Okay,
Abkhazia.
then I could basically figure out they might have had a reason. But the Chechens and the mercenaries, they were getting paid. They could care less. There was no fire in the belly of the Chechens and the mercenaries. The others, I could see maybe there was fire in the belly. They had a reason. And I guess Georgia was like the stronger one who wanted to keep their land. But all in all, I found that what he was saying is this war is there's total absurdity in having this war, and shows the humanity of the people who really are people. And that's the way life should be.
Well, yes.
Very
Yes.
absurd, in a very subtle way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, yes. I mean, the Chechen Ahmed, he was hired to come in and because the Russians, the Russians don't like the Chechens. I mean, there was a war that broke out in Chechnya. So, this is it's commonplace in that area. They start making war on each other and without understanding even why. They come up with a reason, let's make war, then we'll come up with a reason. I mean, it's just inhumane. Thank
And
you.
People came to finally maybe help him with the Tangerines. Did they even know which side they were? Did they care?
No, that was the Estonians, but he said, the Estonian officer, the colonel said, yes, well, I'll send my men in to help you. And he said, they're never going to come now. This is the pity of it. This is the pity of it. Absolutely. Thank you. Mildred.
Yes, I'm sitting back. I'm not showing my face because I'm
Okay.
not particularly dressed. Anyway,
Ooh.
you mentioned, well, I have some clothes. You mentioned that movie. I was going to mention that, the one with the one where they had that truce on Christmas
The truth.
Day.
Yeah, Joyeux
Yeah.
Noël. Joyeux Noël.
Okay,
Yes.
I just want to, well, maybe that person's here. Someone commented to me that they thought the movie was depressing. And I didn't think so. I thought it was uplifting to show how these two adversaries came together and united. It shows how, the basic humanity. I thought that meant a lot to me, and I found that very uplifting.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is for time. It's a spark of humanity, and it's a spark that's unfortunately put out by the death of Nika. That's the sadness of it all. That's the is the fact that yes, they can get together, but it's the
Right.
bigger, it's the macro that defeats the micro in this case.
Of course,
Is
it
what we're
is.
looking.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is sad in many respects,
Yes.
but at the
Yes.
same time, there's
Yeah.
hope for humanity. Sometimes we lose it, but there's always a spark. It
Yeah.
isn't
I mean,
dead yet.
Ahmed,
There's still a spark.
you're right. Ahmed will go home thinking better of
Yeah.
what has just happened. That's what the hope is. That's what the hope is.
Right.
Thank you, Mildred. Larry Lefkowitz.
The photography, I don't think anybody's mentioned that. It was
No.
gorgeous.
Yes.
And the land becomes a character. And I
Mhm.
thought that they did an incredible job of differentiating the large scope and location with the smallness of the individuals who were reacting together. I thought that was beautifully done.
Yeah, it was, and I think the what I call the mise en scène, the setting up, what he puts in the frames of the film. We open up in Evo's workshop. We see him working with wood, and we immediately start to make connections right there. With what the way he shoots it, and then finally, we get into his house, and there are things around which represent the family. There are pictures. There is China. There are things that are there that were probably there for a long time. This was a settled place by these people, and he kept house. As Susan Paul's said before, there's no one, but he was keeping house. He was cooking. He was, doing all those things, which gave way, and carefully making the meals, taking care of the men, all of these things.
A
Very
question,
interesting. Yeah.
a question. Was Evo the same actor who was in The President?
No, not at all. Not at all. Interesting question, but not at all. No, the actor, in fact, the actor who played Evo, I think he died before The President would have been made, but no, that's a different culture, different region. That's the Middle East, really, that he used in that character. It was. I don't want to say it was he wasn't from Northern Europe. He was from I think he was from the Middle East as well. But no, but they did have a similar bearing. They did have a similar bearing. Interesting enough, and that's it. You recall an interesting film we did a few months ago, The President, very much in the same vein. Very much in the same vein, but from the opposite side. What a ruler has done to his country in that case. Anyway, thank you, Larry. Arlette, and then Anne. Arlette, and then Anne.
You also could see how deep their friendship was, Evo and Marcus, because they had a little argument, and then Evo walked over to Marcus's house and didn't know whether he could enter his home, and all was forgiven, and he says, "Come inside." You could see how strong their friendship was through all of
Oh,
this.
absolutely. I mean, Marcus was sweet. He was a sweet guy, and he learned from Evo. He followed Evo's lead, so to speak. Yeah.
It was
Anne.
nice.
Yeah, thank you, Arlette. Anne.
Mute. And unmute.
Anne, you got to unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself?
Press the unmute.
Yeah.
Or if you're on your phone, it's the three
Can
dots.
we do it for her?
Yeah, the three dots.
While she's trying to unmute
Yep,
herself,
yep,
Karen
that's what I was gonna-
mentioned that Evo may have been a widower who had to do, oh, whoops, excuse me, who had to do all the
It's
work.
just asked to unmute. It doesn't allow us to unmute.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
While she's trying to do that, Karen said Evo may have been a widower who had to do all these tasks on a daily basis. I agree, Karen, exactly.
oh, probably. I mean, you know, you know, as I said Sunday, and as I always say, you make your own story. When you don't know, you make your own story. And, you know, it's not wrong or right. It is, it's your story and you're sticking to it. But yes, I think he probably was. You know, the daughter, the granddaughter was probably his son's daughter, you know, and they had left the area, you know, went back to Estonia. So we have these situations, but yes, I agree with you too. I do. Anne, did you unmute? Where is she?
Well, she left
We-
and then came back in,
answered.
so
Yeah.
she should be able to talk now.
And
Can you hear
we
me now?
answered.
Yeah,
Can you
Anne,
hear
go
me
ahead,
now?
Anne.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Ann,
okay.
sorry.
I also thought it was much more of an uplifting film than a down one. And my thinking was the best way to solve problems is to do something for somebody. I think once you have a connection, a human connection, you kind of you own, you're related. If I do something nice to you, there's already a beginning of a friendship. And I think the only way we can solve problems in the world is if we care for each other. And he was trying to show them the importance of understanding and caring for each other.
Well, yeah, that's Ivo was definitely you know, the arbiter, and bringing them together, enforcing them together, and that was, you know, that also was, you know, he is patriarchal in that way. There is a metaphor within that, but he was very patriarchal in bringing them together,
He
enforcing
saved
them.
right. He saved their lives.
Yes,
They owe him.
yes,
They owe
yeah.
him. And they owe
Well,
each other.
yeah, yeah. He brought Nika back to life in essence because they thought Nika was dead
Right.
when he was burying him. So it's either, and also as well as Ahmed, who was lying, you know, in the Jeep and realizing he was alive. He brings these two back to life in a different way, in a different form, which is interesting. Great, thank you, Anne. Anybody else? Anybody else?
I
Okay.
thought I saw Mildred start to come back in.
Yeah, I
Ah.
just I couldn't see how to do the raise the hand. It's been a while since COVID, thank God. Anyway, just another thought. You know, during World War One and World War Two, we were enemies with the Japanese and the Germans, and then the war ended, and now we're friends. That doesn't mean that there aren't some people that still hold grudges against the Germans and the Japanese, but it just shows that there was an old expression: "Old men make war and young men die," or something like that. But you know, it just shows that it's political. As soon as the war ends, then we're friends. Although I temper that with some, well, you know, there's some people that will still hold a grudge against what happened. But I never forget, I went to Russia maybe 15 years ago on a tour, and I never forget all the guides. They kept on talking about it. This is where the Germans were defeated. This is what we did to the Germans. And I mean, this is a long time after World War II. So some animosity never dies. But as soon as the war is ended, then we're more or less friends. It just shows the futility of war. So
Yes, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
One more thing.
One more thing. Go ahead.
Before we leave this, I noticed in my looking into the movie that Tangerines was up for an Academy Award and
Yes,
lost to Ida.
yes. Well, another
This is
film.
another movie
Well,
that we saw.
yes, yes. Oh, you've seen the number of Academy Award nominated and winning films over the years. Yes.
Right, but in
But
this one, this was what they were against. I
interesting.
thought, oh, wow. So I thought that
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, these are which shows you the power of these films, and also how difficult it is to choose at certain times. But anyway, is there anybody else who has anything they'd like to add? And I will get into our next film.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of war. This one is it's entitled My Happy Family. It's from 2017, and it is certainly a kind contrast to Tangerines. This takes place in Tbilisi, in the capital of Georgia. Not a war film at all, but on the evening of her 52nd birthday, a literature teacher, her name is Manana, she decides without explanation or conflict to move out of her crowded multi-generational family apartment that she has shared for 30 years. It is a profound, subtle look at the pressures of Georgian family life, societal expectations, and one woman's revelation of personal liberation. Now, what that all means is something that I will discuss when we see the film. It is an interesting study of Georgian femininity, of Georgian how Georgians treat women, and women's expectations, and defying those expectations. She is a wonderful character. There'll be hopefully lots to talk about with that film. I expect it. But I invite it, and I hope you will. But it offers, a good deal of balance in terms of the film. In fact, as Susan Pauls pointed out, no women in this film. Well, a woman takes center stage in My Happy Family. So I'll look forward to our discussion and later in the month, in 2 weeks. And I wish you all a good 2 weeks until I see you again.
Night,
Say hi to
everybody.
the,
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you for
Thank you,
joining us.
Shelley.
bye,
Thank
Shelley.
you. Thank
Say hi to the
you.
Big Apple.